Okay, this was a good episode and a bad episode at the same time. I mean, there wasn't much actual plot progression, I guess, in this episode, actually progressing the overall plot of this arc. Oh yeah, one thing actually, there was one plot element that was done in this episode. Lecter is alive! We find out he wasn't killed, and he was saved at the last second, and pretty much Sting has to win the Grand Magic Games to be able to save Lecter. So, I like the way this was displayed. It really shows the type of goal now Sting has to strive for, and he has to win this Grand Magic Games to save Lecter. So there's a lot on the line, I think, for Sting, and it's really cool. I like it. It was really enjoyable for that entire factor, but like I said, still, that was really the only major plot development that progressed this episode besides, you know, the Garou Kishi getting introduced this episode. But there was a good fighting scene. I did like the fighting scene in this episode. Later on in the half of this episode, it was enjoyable, and I was kind of upset we didn't go back to the actual Grand Magic Games arena fighting, because that is what I really want to see. But I guess this is fine too. We get to see these new enemies introduced this episode called the Garou Kishi. Now, they're really cool. I like the way they were introduced. They're pretty much executioners for the entire kingdom, and they're there to kill anyone in their way. They have special privileges to, I guess, get away with anyone they want to kill. So it's cool. So we get the powers introduced this episode. We get a couple of them with their powers revealed. Like, we have someone that can use acid magic, we have someone that can use paper magic, and someone that can use plant magic. It's really cool, and I like the way they were introduced. Each of them have a very unique type personality, something Fairy Tail usually does often in its series, and I love the way they were displayed. Once again, though, I have to say, I really love the animation of Fairy Tail. I mean, the way they're taking the manga art style and integrating it into the anime, it is really enjoyable, and I love the way the art style looks. It looks really freaking good, and I like the way it's handled. Now, overall, though, I guess this episode was good. It had the comedy elements, had the standard Fairy Tail fan service, it had some nice, good action scenes, it had the friendship type stuff that's in Fairy Tail. Overall, this was a good episode for any major Fairy Tail fan, and I did enjoy this episode. I have really no complaints besides, like I said, not much plot progression, besides characters getting introduced. But I feel like this was a good episode for any fan of Fairy Tail that wants to see an epic fight, getting to see Natsu actually demonstrate his power once again, being a badass, having that epic combo with Wendy, doing freaking Wind Dragon and Fire Dragon at once. That was fucking badass. Well, let's be honest here, that was freaking awesome. And when they give us a freaking cliffhanger right at the end of this episode, I hate fucking cliffhangers so much. Why would you end an episode right when Wendy's just getting freaking eaten by a carnivorous plant, and then it's just the episode ends? You know, that's one thing. It's pretty obvious where the episode of Fairy Tail is going to end each week. The reason why, it's not because I've read the manga, it's because the way Fairy Tail likes to plan out each episode, it always ends it right when it's getting fucking good. Like, right when it's getting so epic, you're like, yes, this is awesome, and when they just plot drop it, like, they just literally cliffhanger the entire episode, and it gets me so mad. But I do like this episode, so everybody tell me your thoughts on this episode of Fairy Tail. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? What's your favorite moments about it? And do you feel like this episode was the best or one of the worst so far from Fairy Tail 2014? And did you actually like these new characters introduced to Garou Kishi? So let me know your thoughts on them. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.